Hi everyone. Yeah, it's actually the second part of my video on the signs that we need to reevaluate a friendship, especially when it's gone toxic. And okay, so I wanted to talk about this again and just remind everyone that a lot of times that we feel that just part of us being it is because of part of us being very empathetic and being kind, that we think that we must give everyone chances, but sometimes we have to realize that when we refuse to play around with the drama, to play along with the drama of other people, these people will just basically take themselves out like trash. So I have just told you all about the last story that about some new friend who seemed initially to be really sympathetic and or empathetic towards my case about being abused by a narcissistic ex, and a bunch of other so-called flying monkeys who are also probably narcissistic as well. But that friend didn't respect my boundaries and got angry when I told him not to send any obscene Twitter photos and videos of an acquaintance whom I barely even knew, just because he wanted to talk about how exhibitionist that person was. That kind of anger, like, oh, thanks for telling me, bye, then proceeding to block me on social media. I find it very childish for someone who like him, who was actually in his early 50s. uh, I mean, I'm not that young myself, but he's behaving like a girl. I don't even think girls behave like that. He behaves like a child, maybe a 5-year-old child, like me. Yeah, but back to the signs. Okay, I have another like 9 signs as to what constitutes a friendship that you should start reevaluating, and possibly you might have to actually learn to let go of. Again, it's not actually in order of importance, but I'll actually highlight them according to their importance later on. Okay, the first one, this is part two, yeah, part two of the video. The first one is that they scapegoat and gaslight you in situations of moral and ethical crisis, shifting the blame onto you. Okay, I believe that you all have actually probably just heard another story that in the past about this photographer, this very sleazy photographer who was actually going around using his photography to actually as a front to actually molest and touch models, and regardless of their sexuality. And it's funny because when you have a friend who's actually really toxic or narcissistic, who's actually not really your friend, they will actually shift the blame onto you. They will say, oh, as long, like, just like that friend who was conducting surveillance on me, saying, as long as you go to the police. It's like, so you mean if I don't go to the police, I'm a prostitute, I'm a whore, that I deserve to go to hell? Is that what you're trying to imply? And then shifting the blame onto me on being like a jackass. Yeah, that Kenny Low guy, whatever his name is. I really don't buy it, and it's a sign of the person being very very self righteous and full of themselves. Yeah, it's very pompous. Okay, the other thing is that they judge you negatively from the get go. It's actually very related to what I said about them thinking that they are superior to you. They judge you negatively from the get go. So, for example, there was one friend whom I was talking about, that that Kenny guy. That other friend, I wouldn't name him because he's still around, but I don't really want to talk to him for now, because he's become rather toxic himself. He was saying, oh, maybe it's just because you were toxic. No, it wasn't because I was toxic, because you were gaslighting me, you motherfucker. Yeah, so they judge you negatively from the get go. So it's not even that healthy to do that. And the third thing is that they possess values. As I don't just mean any moral, political, whatever values, just values which are virtually contrary to yours, and they do not respect your values. Okay, so this is very similar to what I've said about challenging and degrading your values, but in this case, they do not respect your values. This is so funny because I was just talking about the case with OnlyFans last time. Uh, that we always have that thing that was going on in my family, where my mom used to say, if you are really that confident in what you believe in, you don't really need to just try to so hard to fight to defend it. If someone just criticizes it, you just like, okay, shit, we will agree to disagree. I actually remember that once I had told that one friend who was constantly gaslighting me. I said something about OnlyFans and all this, adult sex work catching up on people who want to actually get a job elsewhere. And he said, catch on what? Catch on what? And he was trying to do the usual stuff about trolling and flighting. Flighting is when you insult people to try to get a rise out of them. To part of it is actually based on the idea of diversion. You want to do that thing that narcissists do to divert it onto another issue to make people back down or back away. I kind of realized that these people love to do that, and sometimes some friends who are narcissistic will do that too. They have values which are so intrinsically different from yours. That friend was claiming that OnlyFans is so good because it helps people who are impoverished to pay off their school fees. No, I mean that aside, but the fact that he has sheer disrespect for my moral values as a person. Um, uh, I'm sorry to say, we have to rethink. I have to rethink that friendship. And okay, the other thing is that they try to. This is the fourth point. They try to pressurize you or coerce you into doing things they know you will not. Um, Sometimes it could be immoral things. Sometimes it could be illegal things. And then they'll even guilt trip you or shame you for refusing. Okay, it's like you are the bad person because you refuse to do something that is illegal or immoral. They do that, yeah. And okay, then of course number five, they get extremely defensive when they are questioned about questionable acts and beliefs, which goes back to the thing about what I was talking about, the friend who was always trying to defend sex. I mean, it's not just sex workers, but people who are doing OnlyFans. Uh, in all honesty, if he was not assessing OnlyFans as a simp, why then is he being so defensive? It's not no big deal then if it was what he meant, but it was a big deal because he was assessing OnlyFans and he paid for that. Yeah. So that's the thing. They get extremely defensive. Okay. And number six, they share personal, private information about you with others, even with those who are against you. Um, I don't know how people react to this idea of confidentiality of information, but when we share with friends, even if the friendship is no longer around, I think that's this very it's a kind of like a social contract that we all have when we are empathetic. We know that it's just mean to share secret information, and I don't bother even sharing about things concerning like former narcissists because or even narcissistic friends who are no longer friends, because yeah, I don't see a need to, and there's no need to prove any superiority to them. But with regards to narcissistic friends or even toxic friends, when they do that, they share personal private information with you about other people. They are actually violating that personal confidentiality of information, and it shows disrespect. There was one senior citizen in the gym that I worked out at who always told me about this concerning, like, when you're in church. I mean, he's Buddhist, but he said, you're never really fully safe even in a church when you say that people are trying to be concerned for you in the name of God, in the name of Christ, because that one thing is when you tell them one secret or one personal thing, it'll spread so fast. It's like, oh, one person in church spreads it to another person, and then by the time like maybe 1 week or more has elapsed, um, the whole church knows what you're doing and what you have done. And then after that, the pastor will come and talk to you and ask you why you're doing that. I mean, when I thought that we had said that we wouldn't, we have agreed that you were not going to do that, but you keep on doing that. Yeah, so that is a sign of a toxic friendship. You should really evaluate. Yeah. And the seventh sign, this friends, so-called friends, they refuse to understand your position. Okay, this links back to the whole thing about their defensiveness, or even not just defensiveness, but even their sense of superiority to you. People who do not want to understand your position do not have empathy. You don't need them. Okay, and okay, the last two, I actually saved the last two for, I mean, the most important. I think that this is very important. Okay, they start changing in their hobbies and their common points of interest with you. I know that this sounds very superficial, because I mean most of us think that we give free passes to friends. Like it's so much more than to like lovers or romantic partners. We think, oh, you know what, this is just a friend. We go back a long way. And when people change, when they change and when we change, we start liking different things, or they start liking different things. We might realize that at the end of it, we don't have anything much in common. And at that point in time, I mean, there's nothing wrong. It's just normally, it's very human thing that people change. I'm, things that I used to love maybe 10 years ago, I might not actually like them now. For example, if I were to say things like, oh, I used to love barbecue. Maybe I don't like it. I don't really like it now. I mean, I still do, but I mean, just an example. Or ice cream, or I mean, common interests and things like that. Uh, it's a kind of a thing that I think we need to realize, that when friends don't really share anything in common with us anymore, and not just beyond values, or even just superficially, that we don't have anything that we can really talk about. What makes it a friendship anyway? Yeah, so is that's the point. And I really just don't get it anymore, especially when, like 6 years ago, I was very active in the fitness industry. I might have known one or two friends from then, but it's not at, I mean, they most of them aren't really my friends at this stage, because I mean, not maybe because of values, changes in values, or difference in values, but I don't see a point in keeping them. And I mean, one of them, the one who was like just vehemently defending OnlyFans and everything with his liberal agenda. Uh, I mean, beyond the fact that he was always talking down at me and over me, which seems so disrespectful, and all the judging. The fact was that, I mean, our own points of interest have changed so much, even in fitness. I mean, I I'm not just competitive as a person, but in terms of my sports, but I I take joy in what I do in the sport, when it comes to fitness and working out and bodybuilding, everything, because I know that it helps to take my mind off things. And but I mean, it's not like a must kind of thing, that I can probably give it up for, like, take a break for a long while and focus on other things. But it was kind of weird when you have been traveling like for a while, and then they have been asking you non-stop, like, why aren't you going to a gym, and blah blah blah. And then it's like, is it a business? I mean, I'm not gonna pay like $10 to $30 just to get a 1 day gym pass, and in another country where I know that, I mean, I won't be there for more than a week or two. And what is it like? I mean, that was when I was traveling in Iceland and Denmark. I mean, and as well as Sweden in 2019 and 2020. He was like commenting non-stop about that. And I said, I'm not training or working out for those 2 weeks, okay? And he's like, oh no, it's none of your business. Okay. Okay, the last one I think is very important. I think that this is something that you really need to watch out for. Um, the reason to the last, it's not just not the least important, but the most important, in fact, is that this particular friend or friends, that they are a narcissist or toxic personality type. Yeah, let me repeat that again. They are a narcissist or a toxic personality type who refuses to get treatment or seek help for their condition. Basically, they think that there's nothing wrong with them. In fact, the case of these people, they might even think, oh, you know what? I love myself so much. It's great. I go around hurting people, I'm better than them, or I disrespect other people. Yeah, so this is a thing with that one friend. Back to that one, I won't name him, but uh, I remember talking to him then about his partner. I said, your partner is a narcissist. It won't come to a good end. I gave him a warning because I was being, very good-hearted to tell him that I knew that he was being played. But he said, ha 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 ha, I am a narcissist too. I don't know whether he's joking, but how he said was he claims to be an empath. But if you are an empath, why are you constantly gravitating back towards that person for the roller coaster ride? Unless you're probably not, you don't love you don't love yourself enough. So yeah, and true enough, after like barely, I mean, going back, and then after that for the picking up the roller coaster ride for about 1 to 2 more years, he suddenly came back to me and just told me on WhatsApp, I'm sorry, Kevin, for being so mean to you, because I really ended up with a narcissist, and he really dumped, yeah, the friends gave it. He really dumped me. I said, you know what? I don't know what to say, but this is what people do. And yeah, so okay, this will be the last bit of my presentation about what you have to do about these people, these friendships. I don't think that all of us actually will necessarily end the friendship, even it should it be toxic. I mean, most of them will end up in that state where, like, the friend actually deletes you or blocks you, or you block the friend, delete the friend. It's rarely that dramatic or petulant, like my case with that one other friend who just blocked me on WhatsApp because I said no lewd videos or photos. Yeah, they won't be that. Not they won't necessarily be that dramatic, but in most cases we need to deal with them. So how do we do that? Okay, the first thing I think we need to do about such people is that we have to refuse their narrative of us. The reason why they are so toxic and possibly even belligerent to us in a very covert way is that they have a preconception of us, which is not true. And this is what they project onto us. We have to actually refuse that narrative that they have of us. Yeah. And one way we can deal with it, if you don't want to actually confront them, which I don't really recommend anyway, because they wouldn't see the sense anyway. So one way is to actually talk it out directly with them amicably. You have to remind them that they have violated the boundaries and of the relationship or the friendship, and that they have disrespected you. It might or might not work, but at least you have stayed at your ground. And I do not actually advocate for ghosting. Yeah, ghosting is not something that's very mature from my point of view. But if you want to do it, then you have to make sure that you are ready to do it. But that said, I don't do it. Okay, so if these friends refuse to accept what you have told them amicably, and they engage in certain, overt aggressive. When I say overt aggressive, that could be actions such as shouting, crawling, picking a fight, threatening you. Okay, or if not, if they engage in covert aggressive acts such as word salad, using a lot of words which don't make sense, to confuse you or to divert the issue, digging up peripheral issues to divert the argument, or silent treatment, further guilt tripping or shaming, etc. Do not escalate, regardless of whether they use these tactics. Okay, so repeat your stand. Repeat the words that you've said, even if it means that you have to rephrase them. Repeat it over again nicely and calmly. Okay, so don't get flustered. Yeah, that's the other thing. Don't try to make them see your point of view, because I know some people just they are beyond reason. So especially covert aggressive people, if they actually if you actually confront them, and talk to them angrily and in a flustered way, they get a rise out of that, and they are very happy. They thrive on your exasperation, and I think witnessing your exasperation feeds them. What's the point? So I think at the best, what you can do after doing this is to agree to disagree, and if you need to, just walk away. So I think that potentially the best thing you probably could do for yourself is to ask yourself, is this the kind of friendship I really want? Is this the kind of person that I really need in my life? I mean, we don't really need some friends. I mean, we need friends, but do we really want this kind of friend? I mean, most of us settle for this kind of like a half baked or half past six friendships. I might say half past six is like even half. It's nothing. It's not even a full relationship or full friendship. Uh, the reason why we settle for them is because maybe we knew them at a stage when we were very broken. We were trying to recover from something. I mean, for my case, I know especially I was trying to recover from narcissistic abuse many years ago. I mean, the trauma was it was very hard to bear. I mean, I must admit that. And at that point in time, it seemed that those few friends, those one or two friends, were people who were hearing me out and everything. But I mean, in retrospect, if you were to think about it, these few people were really mean, nasty jerks. They were not just judging me. They didn't want to see me really happy and fulfilled, because if I was happy and fulfilled, I'll be somewhere else. Let's say, maybe I will be doing work somewhere else. I mean, it need not be academic work. I could be back in Canada. I could be in Toronto studying. I could be in New Zealand or Australia. Um, I could be thriving. I need not be attached. I could be just like making a lot of money, and I could be doing something, and I could, yeah, I could just be living my life, even here as well in Singapore. But um, when I realized that they don't really want me to do better than them, they probably want me to do well or better than I was back when I was abused. But they do not want me to do better than them. You get that difference? Yeah, they want me in a particular box. So they wanted me in a particular box. So I realized that at that point in time, I mean, right now, looking back, I mean, was it really the kind of friendship that I'll be stuck with for a long, long time? Probably not. Because I mean, right now, if I were to ask myself honestly, would I trust them with confiding? I mean, trust them, as in confide my dreams in them. I know I wouldn't, because I mean, I barely even told them about things like my competitions, uh, my jobs, or new friends, new relationships. I barely even wanted to tell them that, because I don't feel comfortable enough. I felt that I was going to end up walking on eggshells. So again, that very question, is it even worth it, or is it a point to keep them in my life? That made me reevaluate the whole friendship. And yeah, so okay, anyway, this is the whole thing. So and I mean, I don't know if anyone actually believes in astrology. I don't really believe in it, but according to what has been said somewhere in different on different websites, they say that the new moon is in Scorpio, and Scorpio represents death and rebirth. And isn't it kind of like describing my situation, where I'm reevaluating my friendships, and how I think some friendships must necessarily die, and before I can find new ones. I think that it basically comes down to it. So yeah, so that's it for now, concerning this signs of a friendship that you need to probably start re-evaluating, and also the things that you probably need to do. I mean, where possible, don't be a jerk, don't be a jackass, don't ghost on them, unless they are a narcissist and they start abusing you. But if they are just really just not for you, you just separate. You know, there's nothing wrong with separating from people who are not good for you. Okay, so I hope this helps. And yeah, actually, it's a nice weekend, so I'm gonna get out to do some grocery shopping. Okay, have a good one. Bye bye.